Hello. Welcome to part 2 of your fraction support for this week. Now, as I said on your letter, please watch my old video about how to find a fraction of a number, which is on my YouTube channel, and the link is on your letter. Please watch that first and then watch this video, so that we can just discuss some of the problems that you've got on your in your workbook, with you already having the knowledge of how to work out fractions of a number. So if you haven't watched that yet, please watch it first. It is an old video. It mentions how we've learnt it in class, which we haven't yet, but that's because it was a video I made about a year ago. So this is the rhyme to remember fractions. As it says on the video, you divide by the bottom and times by the top. That way your fraction will hit the spot. So there's a couple of examples there showing you how, if you were finding 3/5 of 55, you would divide 55 into 5 equal pieces, and then you would multiply it by 3 because you want 3 of those pieces, and that would tell you how much you had. The same with 3/8 of 48. You would take 48 and you would divide it into 8, which would give you your eighths, and then if you wanted 3 of those, then you would multiply it by 3 to find the answer. So that's the rhyme. I'm just going to talk you through some questions on the workbook. Most of them just need a bit of talking through and don't need a lot of demonstration. There are a couple that I will just show to you visually, but most of them are fairly self-explanatory once you've read it carefully. So we'll look at that now, and then I've got a game to show you at the end, which is part of your home challenge this week, but I just wanted to demonstrate how to use the spinner, and hopefully that will help you with your learning this week. So this is a copy of your workbook that I've just got on my screen, and I just wanted to talk through a few of the questions on here. You've been set pages 34 to 37 this week, which is going back and filling in pages which we left out before. And there's also the bonus sheets to complete for this week, which give you some more fraction problems. Now I'm just going to talk through a few of these questions, because most of them should be fairly straightforward if you've had a good look at the fraction rhyme from the first video that I've asked you to watch and got to grips with that method. So if you use that method, you should be able to answer these questions, and also using your fraction knowledge from previous weeks and previous times in school. So just read the questions carefully, because I think you'll be able to do much more than you may initially think you can. So I just wanted to talk about question 6 first. It says Dina has 40 marbles and she gives 1/10 of them away. Now the reason I wanted to draw your attention to this one is because it says how many marbles does she have left? Okay, so it's asking you to work out 1/10 of 40, and they're the ones that she's given away, and then you need to calculate how many she has left. Okay, so a lot of these questions I'm going to mention have 2 parts to them, which is why I wanted to draw your attention to them. So work out 1/10 and then take that away and work out what she's got left. I now want to just talk through question 3 here. So this says Zach has saved £12. He spends 1/4 of his money on a book and 1/3 on a pen. How much does the book cost? How much does the pen cost? So all you have to do here is first of all work out 1/4 of £12, and that is the cost of the book. And then you need to work out 1/3 of £12, and that is the cost of the pen. Because there are 2 fractions in there, it may look a little confusing, but actually it's fairly straightforward. So 1/4 of 12 is the book, and 1/3 of 12 is the pen price. Number 4 is another 2-parter. So 2/5 of Chloe's hair is blue. What fraction is not blue? So you're thinking about the fraction that makes up a whole here. So 2/5. how many fifths would you add on to make a whole? And that would be the fraction of her hair that is not blue. Okay. Question 5. Chris has 32 kilograms of sprouts. He gives 3/8 of them to Linda. How many sprouts does he have left? So a bit like the problem at the top, you need to use the fraction rhyme to take 32, divide by the bottom, divide by 8, and then multiply your answer by 3 times by the top. And that will tell you how many sprouts he gives away. But the question is asking how many sprouts he has left. So the fraction that you've calculated, you then need to take that away from the 32 kilogram total. Okay, so when you've worked out 3/8, you take that away from the 32, so that then you can work out how many sprouts he's actually got left. Okay, so it's kind of working out two parts of the whole. Once you've worked out the fraction, you then need to work out, if he gives that amount away, what is he going to be left with. And then the last one I'm just going to talk you through quickly is this one, question 6 on page 37. 4 children eat 2/9 of a chocolate cake each. What fraction of the cake do they eat in total? Now, you don't need to calculate anything here, you just need to write a fraction. I just wanted to draw your attention to it because unless you read it carefully, it's a bit confusing as to what you need to do. But basically, there's 4 children and they each eat 2/9. Okay, so if you have Alice who eats 2/9, you have Florence that eats 2/9, you have Albie that eats 2/9, and you have Harry that eats 2/9 of the cake. If they each have 2/9 each, what fraction of the whole cake is that in total? Okay, so it's just asking you to add up the fractions. Now I'm going to just show visually for you a couple more questions, just so that I can draw on my screen, which will make it a little bit easier. So this is one of the questions I wanted to show you on the screen so I could show it visually. It looks a little bit confusing, and I must admit it is a bit misleading, particularly the last part. But I just wanted to explain it to you because actually it's not that hard, but it's just getting your head around what it actually means. So the first bit says 1/2 of what is 9. So basically that just means, if I have my bar model up here, we don't know what the total is yet, okay, but we do know that half of it is 9. Okay, so if it's split into 2 equal bits, the total is 9. Okay, so that hopefully will help you to find out what that missing number is. 1/2 of what is 9. Okay, so if half of it is 9, that means the other half is 9. What would the original whole be? The same with this part, 1/3 of something is 10. So again, we don't know the total, but we do know that 1/3 of it is 10. Okay, which also means that, of course, all these parts are 10 because it's equal. It's an equal division. So if 1/3 of this is 10, this is also 10, and this is also 10, the 3 equal pieces. So what must that total be? Now, this last one is a bit misleading, I thought, to be honest. I've actually put in 1 for you there because I think there are actually multiple possibilities for this this answer, but I thought just to narrow it down, I would put 1 something. So here it's written 1/2 of something, 1/3 of something, but this time you need to say what the fraction is of 12 is 3. So 1 something, 1 fraction, which we'll work out, of 12 is 3. So basically you need to think of 12, and if it was divided up and we ended up with 3, what has it been divided by? Okay, and the easiest way to do this is just to do 12 divided by 3, and you will end up with a number which will help you work out the fraction. Okay, I don't want to kind of explain too much more because it will give too much of it away, but my hint is it's 1 something as the easiest answer to find. Just do 12 divided by 3. Okay, and then that will help you work out what it is here, because if, for example, this was 1/2, which it's not, if this was 12 and 6, it would be 1/2 of 12 is 6. If I did 12 divided by 6, I would end up with 2. Okay, and 2 is the denominator of the fraction, so it would be 1/2, which is 1/2. So for this one, do 12 divided by 3, and it should give you the denominator for that fraction. And then you can test it by working out whether the fraction of 12 is actually 3. The second thing I wanted to go through was number 8, where it says Amir eats 1/3 of a pizza and Joe eats 1/6 of it. What fraction of the pizza is left? Now, as I've mentioned before, it's often useful to visually draw these out, to find some space and draw it out so you can picture it. I've drawn a pizza here, and I've actually split it into thirds and into sixths. Now, if you remember from our equivalent fraction lesson, 1/3 is actually the same as 2/6. 1/3 is the same as 2/6, because remember, the smaller the denominator, the bigger the denominator, the smaller the fraction. So there's actually 2/6 inside 1/3, and we can see that here from the picture. I've divided it into thirds where the kind of pinky purpley lines are, but I've also divided it into sixths, and you can see there are 2 of the sixths within each third. So what I suggest you do is do a similar thing. I suggest you then take a pencil or a colour pencil and shade in the third and shade in the sixth. So this is going to be coloured in badly, but I will just shading quickly. So I've shaded in a third there of the pizza, and then I'm also going to shade in a sixth. Okay, so just 1 of the sixths, so 1 out of the 6 pieces. Okay, so 1 out of the 3 big pieces, 1 out of the 6 pieces. Okay, so that's how much has been eaten. Now you need to work out what's left, and there's different ways you could write this fraction. There's probably an obvious fraction that you can see straight away that you could write, but it could be written in different ways. You could write it as an amount of sixths, or you could, as you might be able to spot, a much simpler fraction that is revealing itself through drawing that picture. All right, so remember, making it visual really does help. So I'm going to show you the spinner game now, which is part of the home challenge for this week, just so I can demonstrate. So this is the game that's part of your home challenge. It's a spinner game. Now, it obviously doesn't come with a spinner, but you can create a spinner using a pen or pencil and a paper clip. So you use your pen or pencil as your kind of anchor point in the middle, and then the paper clip, I normally use the small end here just because it stays on better. You put that in the middle as well, and your pen or pencil goes through the loop. Okay, and you just need to keep good hold of your pen or pencil so that it's not just going to move out the way, and then you're able to flick your paper clip and you've created a spinner. Now, what you need to do for this game is you spin and you look at the fraction that you've got, and then you need to see if you can match the fraction, the equivalent fraction on the side. So it's quite good to have to play this against somebody else, and you could colour in 2 different colours and see who has the most at the end, or you could print off 2 copies. So just as an example, I'm going to spin. So I've got a quarter. So I look over here. Now I'm not going to do a quarter because it's the same fraction, it's not equivalent. I want to find a fraction that's also equal to a quarter up here. Okay, now I can see that 2/8 is equal to a quarter. Remember, you could use the fraction rule again. So I'm going to write in the quarter that I got, shade in the quarter, and then that will be mine that I've got. So if you're doing this with someone on the same sheet, if I did it in one colour, the other player could do it in another colour, and you can see who's managed to fill in the most, because sometimes when you spin you won't be able to match, so you won't get one every time. So let's have one more go. Okay, 4/6. So 4/6. So have a look at the picture. Have a look at the pictures we've got here. Which one is it equivalent to? Which means the same. Okay, 4/6. Now that's the same as 2/3. 2/3. So I can have that one. And I'll colour in 4/6. Okay, so that's the game. Do have a go at that with your paperclip and your pen or pencil. Play it as a challenge against someone else, or just play it on your own and see how many you can fill in. You will find that on some goes you can't get a match because it's already been taken, or you can't find a fraction that matches. I hope that goes down well, and I hope that helps you to recap your equivalent fraction knowledge. So just to finish, just reminding you of this rhyme: divide by the bottom, times by the top. That's where your fraction will hit the spot. So you take your total, you divide it into the equal number of pieces that you need, and then you will multiply it by the numerator, the number at the top, which tells us the total amount that we now have, the fraction amount that we now have. So you divide it by the denominator and you multiply it by the numerator. Now remember, there's the bonus sheet for this week as well, which has some fraction chili challenges on. Please do spend some time completing as far as you can along that sheet, because it will give you more practice of this method, which you'll need to get into your head. There is also the fraction extension sheet, which practices this again furthermore in another context. So please do have a look at those, have a look at the home challenge, have a look at the game, and there are links as well on the learning grid to some online games that you could play as well, like Monty's Maths Wall. So I hope that's useful. If any of you are struggling with this method, please do send me an email. I'd be happy to go through it with you. It's one of those things that once you've got it, it's great, but it can be tricky to start with, and it does rely on your times tables. So you might want to have a multiplication grid with you next to you to help you, if that's useful, or you might want to write out some times tables depending on what the question is. Write out the multiples, because that often helps as well. All right, I hope it goes well. Do let me know if I can help any more. Bye.